Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hi, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today we're discussing Farscape, Season 4, Episode 7, John Quixote. John and Chiana get stuck in a weird video game made by Stark.
Not how I imagined Stark and Zan making a return.
I would be surprised if you imagined anything from this episode. It is very much on the strange side of Farscape.
You cannot say this show never tried anything different.
Well, after this episode, you mean?
Even before this one, but I think they really clinched it with this one.
How did you find this episode?
I agreed with what John said toward the end, something about just being mostly confused.
It was quite almost obnoxious with how all over the place it was.
I didn't enjoy it, really.
I remember.
Although I do like that there are real consequences in there.
Are there real consequences?
Well, perceived consequences. I was led to believe that Scorpius escaped and took over Pilot, and everyone else. Though that's pretty dire. But then it was all fake.
Oh, right, yeah. I guess the episode did have a bit of a it was all a dream sort of thing.
Twist. They're still in the game, and I feel stupid. I didn't see that coming.
That's an obvious twist that is hidden really cleverly. So what I was going to say earlier is I think this is an episode that improves a lot on rewatch because it's structured so weirdly. A lot of things happen rapidly, and then not very much happens, and then lots of things happen. Once you already know the gist of it, it's much more enjoyable. I wouldn't say it's outright a good episode. I think it's a good episode in some ways. It's just super experimental, and that is a benefit and a detriment.
It was distracting in a lot of ways. For example, Aaron's southern accent with a lisp. I did not understand why that was happening. Stuff like that seems like it was thrown in there just because.
Because it was funny, I think. There's a weird mix of stuff that is purely random and stuff that is meaningful.
But then the meaningful stuff gets lost in the nonsense.
Yeah, completely. Which is probably why it's better on rewatch. So here's an obvious one. Stark had his mask on the other side of his face.
I didn't even realize.
Does this have any meaning? Probably not. I think it's just to make him look somewhat unusual, because you might not consciously notice that it's different, but you're kind of aware. It's like a mirror image of Stark.
And then they throw in some hair for good measure or bad measure. I'm not really sure.
That is definitely random and meaningless. I do like how they hid the still in the game twist, because it's the number one obvious twist that you're going to get in an episode like this. So they hid it behind the fact that they were planning to use the game to counter attack Scorpius.
Yeah, and I think that's what threw me off. That felt too not in the game.
It worked too perfectly. It was a great foil to Scorpius's plan. So it seemed like that was the twist. They hid the twist behind the twist. So you should give some credit to the writer of this episode.
Who is someone it sounds like you're going to reveal?
Correct. It's Ben Browder. John Crichton writes another episode.
Not a knockout like his other one.
I think it had a lot in common. There was kind of fast-paced and clever plotting. This one's certainly way more quirky.
Yes, this one has a man milking himself, a farting fire, and other things.
That was something you probably never imagined you would see. I always wonder what it would be like if, when Zan died, I just said, don't worry, Zan will come back as a obese man and will breastfeed John.
It would have sounded like you just babbling and not actually telling me what's going to happen.
It did happen. It kind of happened. One boob did acid.
Yeah, of course. That's how that works.
That is not how that works.
They teach you in breastfeeding school that one of the teats is dangerous.
Okay. I am not an expert on Delvian breastfeeding.
I am.
Evidently. Thanks to this episode, I've come to realize something about science fiction.
Okay. What is it?
It's, I think, something we mentioned before when we were podcasting Deep Space Nine, but all futuristic video games are basically Encarta mind maze.
Yeah.
Just weird things with no real gameplay and completely esoteric puzzles.
That's all people want in the future. Every other genre runs its course.
Though, Shiana did say that some of the other games were just pornography.
That sounds accurate.
That's accurate, and I'm glad they put that in.
That's why the medium was adopted.
Well, yeah, if you had these little blue starfish that could give you a perfect VR experience with minimal vomiting, that, that's a great way to deliver pornography to the masses. That's got to be lucrative.
I'm not a pornography branding expert, but yeah, I think you're onto something.
Yeah, you don't need to be one to recognize that you could make big bucks. Speaking of Zan, other than the larger male Zan, Virginia Hay made a guest appearance on the series as classic Zan.
Non-man Zan.
If you like, yes.
I do like that she showed up in this episode, because as soon as I saw that guy, I thought, oh, they couldn't get Virginia Hay, and this is them giving us sort of a little treat. Hey, here's a Delvian. We couldn't get her, but here's this guy.
Yeah, as if instead of casting a similar, like a look-alike, sound-alike kind of actress, they just went totally in the other direction.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. As soon as I saw him, I thought, we will never see the real Zan now.
This episode is really clever in a lot of ways. Like, the plot structuring is really cunning. It tricks the viewer in ways that are quite impressive. I don't think it makes it a great episode. I'm not really hot on the whole weird video game thing.
Neither am I, and that's basically the whole episode.
To me, this episode is like a very sort of lukewarm idea of being stuck in a video game. In fact, calling that lukewarm is generous. But let's say it's lukewarm. It's that kind of idea, but then injected with a bunch of really cool stuff And that kind of just makes it okay. It just sort of bounces between awesome and just weirdly confusing.
That is correct. There's a lot of good stuff in here, but there's more bad stuff, and the good can't overcome the bad completely, so we're left with something in the middle. Large spikes of good and bad.
Instead of using the classic Farscape slow motion, this episode had a split screen effect to use more footage.
I'll take split screen over slow-mo, especially at this point. We've had our fill of slow-mo. Let's just do more split screen if you insist. Actually, don't do that.
Yeah.
Stop with that one too.
I would take just regular linear footage at the regular speed. Aside from Zan, Virginia Hay making a reappearance, this also had Jewel, and Stark, and Crace, who is the voice of Pilot but appears here as Crace, and also Jelena.
Oh yeah, PK Tech Girl? Is that
That's right, yeah. And it also had the Gamic base as well.
That I was less excited about, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Just a set. It also had the car park, which was in Won't Get Fooled Again, which was supposed to be a forest, but they didn't have the budget for it. So they used a car park instead.
Okay.
And I think that makes the episode quite a bit worse.
I don't really think a forest would have improved it.
It would have made it more clear it's part of the game, rather than just some weird stuff. I mean, we know it's part of the game, but I mean, like, thematically it would fit together with the castle and the ogre at the top and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And
it did seem out of place.
Stark being in a kind of alchemist room. It was horribly out of place, but it kind of, everything's so weird and random that it doesn't stand out.
Stark is a bad game designer.
Well, that is obvious. This game starts in the middle of the Gamic base.
Starts off with Scorpius, though. That's pretty good.
Okay, it does start at a good point. We never saw the true game, so maybe it wasn't that badly paced.
We didn't see Stark's true vision. This is the game he threw away.
Is this a joke about him having one eye?
No, it wasn't, but
Now it is.
now it is.
Talking about things of which there are only one.
Durante?
This is the weirdest segue, but bear with me. John writes the wormhole equations in blood on the floor.
It's a long equation.
And then he uses his foot to cover one symbol.
Presumably, he could have been lying.
Assuming he was telling the truth. That's really, like, you've basically given it to him, to Scorpius. He just needs to check every symbol. Like, there can't be more than, say, a few hundred. It's like if you had a novel and he said, I've torn out one page.
What if that one page had the sequence for pi?
Okay, it's not even like a page, like a paragraph. I don't know, it seems like from context, Scorpius would be able to work out the equation. Or at least remember it and relay it to someone who would be able to work it out.
Giving away that much of the equation was begging for Scorpius to find it on his own.
He could have just taken one look and said, "Oh, that's fine. I've got it now."
Pretty sure I can find that symbol. Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure.
Maldus got mentioned.
Because even they know he's bad.
I don't think Maldus will be in an episode again.
He will be in the series finale.
That would be, well,
John will defeat him and become a god.
I already defeated him twice.
Third time's a charm. You know that.
Could the second time maybe be the charm, though? I think they just keep mentioning him every 20 episodes to try and lend credence to the villainy that he supposedly had.
They're trying to rewrite history.
Yeah, it's make him like an actual threat by continually having the characters go, oh gosh, I hope it's not Maldus. But don't actually bring him back because he wasn't good. You mentioned Naranti.
I did.
Naranti is seriously a drug dealer.
She's always handing out the latest new drug to John.
Mostly to John, yes.
She really likes getting John high.
Is he the ship's drug addict?
Yes.
I wouldn't go that far, although he has partaken in more narcotics than the rest of them.
Yeah, he's an addict. That's how he copes, by getting high off Naranti's drugs.
That's depressing.
And the show is depressing sometimes.
Somewhat inaccurate, or at least exaggerated. Zan asks John to find out if all the people that died because of him died for a good reason.
Nope.
Probably not. I mean, maybe.
He's killed too many. The odds don't favor him.
He prevented people from getting wormhole technology and conquering the galaxy. But we don't know if that would have been necessarily a bad thing. And all that stuff is kind of his fault anyway. Do you have a quote from this episode?
Maybe you have to do more than just kiss her. Maybe kiss is a metaphor for showing her a really good time. I figured I would go with a bad quote for not a great episode.
That was actually kind of it's good how creepy that is.
He escalates it pretty quickly.
And yeah, then he says Chiana has to kiss her too, and that he wants to watch. It's just he goes from 0 to 1 to 11.
And then he calls them meat.
I miss Stark. He does sort of manic sort of craziness better than anyone else on this show.
Unhinged Stark is a very good villain.
It's not even that he's a villain, he's just a not really protagonist, not really antagonist, just sort of
an obstacle.
I've heard the term non-tagonist.
Maybe you should unhear it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's kind of silly. I had a quote, but it's not a quote you will find in the episode because it was cut.
Oh.
Which is a line from Crace as the ogre, where he was going to say, "Only this morning she made me throw out a perfectly good television set." Which is so good.
Yeah, why would they get rid of the callback?
I don't know. It's so good. Because he gets hit by that television at the start. It makes no sense. And then at the end, that would have hooked it all together brilliantly. But I guess...
At a point where you've already forgotten about the TV, almost certainly. Because so much other random crap has been thrown at you.
Which makes it a great hook. Because it'll bring it back instantly. And it's a good line. And it was cut probably because it didn't fit the right sort of tone. Or pacing. Or all those other reasons why they cut things from things.
They could have fit it in with split screen.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to add audio to something.
It's elegant, and everyone loves it.
Split screen the audio.
Yeah. You have 2 ears, you could listen to 2 audio tracks.
Kind of. Yeah, I mean, physically, sure, that could be arranged. I think we should move on and find out what is next in the Farscape adventure.
More Moldus.
No. I mean, that's really unlikely.
I wouldn't mind more Stark.
That might be nice. Would you like more plot? Because this is kind of just random episodes and has been for a while. For pretty much the whole season so far.
We will return to plot. That's inevitable. I'm not worried about it. But yes, I would like it.
Perhaps next episode will be part 1 of 15.
It will be so loaded with plot.
That would be great. I feel it shouldn't big things up. But let's go on and see how good the next episode is. If it's not like 15 out of 10, I'm going to just hate it.
That's okay. It's a high bar.
It is, but that's what we've set.
Game over.
Oh,